A Georgia jury convicts an Atlanta lawyer of defrauding the federal government out of more than $7 million in Paycheck Protection Program funds. A jury of 7 men and 5 women found Shelitha Robertson used the funds to buy a Rolls-Royce car, Lord have mercy, a motorcycle, and 10-carat diamond ring for $148,000, among other things. Robertson denied grossly exaggerating the number of people employed by 4 of her companies to obtain millions of dollars in federal aid designed to help small businesses keep afloat during the coronavirus pandemic. She blamed her company's fraudulent 2020 PPP loan applications on her then friend and personal attorney, Chandra Norton, who pled guilty in a separate prosecution. Prosecutors said that Robertson and Norton were best friends and partners in crime who together schemed to get as much money in PPP loans as they could, receiving ultimately almost $8 million. Robertson transferred $50,000 in PPP funding to her daughter, who has not been charged, withdrew $25,000 of the funds in cash, and gave Norton $400,000. Prosecutors said, well, John Quell, have you ever seen something like this in the courtrooms that you've been in? I mean, was this a case of where they was both guilty and one turned on the other one before the other one could get the deal? Are you smiling? What do you make of this?
During the course of the pandemic, there's been tons of people that have been prosecuted due to the improper use of these PPP loans. So this is certainly something that has come up quite a bit since the pandemic. However, what makes it odd is that you have 2 lawyers, unfortunately, that are involved in this case. And you're right, Ms. Norton has been disbarred, but she took a plea back in 2020 where an agreement to testify against Ms. Robertson. Unfortunately, this is something that has commonly went on since the PPP loans have been given out, and it's really unfortunate.
I'm in Atlanta, and that PPP loan story has been the joke for the past 3 or 4 days. It's like you mentioned a Rolls-Royce. She didn't just get a Rolls-Royce; she got a hot pink Rolls-Royce. And in my head,
what?
Oh yeah, it was a hot pink Rolls-Royce.
Come on.
And part of me's wondering, was she riding around Atlanta with her arm out the window, like playing UGK or by playing Pinky Ring by UGK, thinking nobody wasn't gonna pay attention to that? I mean, I don't know what got in her head to make her think she was going to do that. It's sad. It's funny, but it's sad because you would think somebody who's a lawyer would have better sense than to do this. But, you know, it's just one of the things, man, you just got to shake your head as to why people move the way they move.
No question. I mean, who she thinks she is, Marjorie Taylor Greene? You can't just steal federal money and get away with it. Which actually, Lauren, you know, I saw you laughing because, I mean, you see this stuff up close every day in the federal legislature. All this stealing, and some people get away scot-free. And then this other thing. I wonder if you have any thoughts about this. The word that comes to mind as we're sitting here and I'm thinking about you and the things you reported on over the years and you talk about every week here is accountability. Clarence Thomas clearly doesn't have any accountability. Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene can take millions. These sisters are going to pay for what they did. I mean, what kind of country are we living in now where it seems like some people are always brought to accountability, as they should be, and others don't even have to think about it?
Yeah, that's for sure. Obviously, accountability is really up to who gets to decide who will be accountable. It's not that it's right to steal a bunch of PPP money and buy a pink Rolls-Royce. She should have gotten busted for that. But the PPP money situation has been very interesting. There have been a lot of people who had gotten a lot of that money under very questionable circumstance. So it then becomes a matter of who gets busted. I mean, you know, as somebody who walked out of the Jonathan Majors case this week, you know, you see that prosecutorial decision-making and discretion means a lot. And so when Alvin Bragg picks that case over another one, you know, you have to wonder. And jury selection in that case was an issue as well, where in the closing days of the case, the only Black juror on the jury, the prosecution tried to throw out, tried to throw off of the case, which it was interesting to me sitting in Manhattan in criminal court that you only had one Black juror. And then the one Black juror that you do have, we're going to try to get rid of. So, I mean, jury selection and, you know, there had been some some Batson challenges in another case that Alvin Bragg had prosecuted involving Adam Foss, a totally different case from the Majors case. So jury selection is huge. Now, of course, we know that some of that is because people do not necessarily answer their jury notices. So it's not all the court's fault necessarily. But when you look in detail at, and so many social and civil rights groups have looked at this, when you look at detail, the jurors who do show up and the ones that get stricken are disproportionately Black because, of course, there's this notion that Black people cannot be objective, even though the history shows us exactly the opposite. There's always this idea that white folks will walk in the court and be completely and perfectly objective, and it's Black folks that can't be objective about a Black defendant. At any rate, after watching the Majors case, I have to say that, I mean, in some ways it feels like the 1950s are here again, because there's certain things that you see that mirror some of the history that you've read about, and I, as a history major, recognize and I'm kind of shocked by, particularly when it comes to our justice system. But at any rate, there's a lot to say about those headlines. I think I've probably talked long enough about the situation. But you know, it is interesting. The pink Rolls-Royce, not Cadillac, pink Rolls-Royce. That's pretty audacious, pretty bold.
Pretty audacious.
Do it all the way.
Well, you know those ATLians, as they might say, me and you, your mama and your cousin too. So, I mean, gonna slam some doors, but you know, somebody got to pay for their fun.